You're not invited to my gingerbread house party.
Good, I don't want to be because I want to watch you struggle with it.
Happy Vlogmas! Today I'm going to make a gingerbread house. But while I assemble this, while I make this home, if you will, I'm going to talk about a book I just read called The Homemaker. Get it? Get it? I'm the homemaker. This book was so good. It was one of my 5-star predictions for this year, and I was right. Well done me. It blew my mind. So the premise of The Homemaker is it's about this married couple in the 1920s. And the wife is the homemaker. She keeps the house all clean and she hates it and she's miserable. She basically runs the house like it's a business, and her children are miserable because they're kind of scared of her because she's like so strict about everything, and she's just unhappy. And then the husband goes to work. He works at a shop in the accounts department, I believe. And he also is really miserable and he's really bad at his job because he just daydreams all day. He just sits there and thinks about poetry. And they're both just very unhappy people and their family is not having a great time. Massage the icing pouches for 2 minutes. So that's the setup. But then Lester, the husband, has an accident. Oh, come back. And he is left paralysed and in a wheelchair. So he can't go to his job anymore and he has to stay home with the children. That means they're not making any money. So the wife decides that she has to go out and get a job. And in the beginning, it's all like, oh no, isn't it so hard for a mother having to be away from her family? Oh, this poor family being so brave, how will they ever get through it? But then she discovers that she loves her job. And it is so heartwarming. It is so moving to see how all of that energy and ferocity that she had at the beginning, which was just making her and everyone unhappy because she was throwing like all of her intelligence and all of her drive into tasks that she found really unfulfilling. So all of that energy that she has, she puts into being the best saleswoman in the shop, and she just nails it. And it's so wonderful to read. I love it. But then we also follow the father at home with the children. He and the children start doing the housework together and coming up with new ways to keep the house clean, like clean enough for mother because they're not quite as good at it as she used to be. They start learning to cook together. And he discovers that he absolutely adores spending time with his children. I think that's massaged enough. So some of my favourite bits to read in Lester's side of the story were about his relationship with his children and how he becomes so interested in learning about them as people, learning about who they are. It was so moving. I don't usually cry at books, but this one had me so teary. So there's Helen, who's the oldest one, and she's this very anxious child at the beginning. And she's always overthinking everything, and she's very timid. But with her father, she starts to really come out of her shell. And firstly, she loves doing the housework, and she loves baking with him and teaching him things. So she's very happy and content doing all of that. But even though she does like the housework in a way that her mother never did enjoy it, she is also really smart and she really thinks about things. And what at the beginning seems like just a child who's very anxious and worked up about things, the more she talks to her father, the more he starts to realise how clever she is. And he says to her, you know, you don't have to worry about all of your overthinking. What do you think the Greek philosophers were doing? That's what they were doing, thinking in circles like you do. And he encourages her that she should go to college, and that's something that she would never have considered before. So I thought it was so inspiring. And then my absolute favourite, the bit that made me cry the most, so the youngest boy is called Stephen, and he is like 4, I guess. He hasn't gone to school yet. And at the beginning we meet him, he's a complete nightmare. The mother finds him a nightmare. All of the neighbours agree that he's just like a devil child, they say, because he has temper tantrums and he like deliberately acts up. But when the father is home with him, he starts becoming really interested in paying attention to Stephen's mood. And there's this really sweet moment where he's just managed to get him interested in playing with an egg whisk, because he's watching the little concentration on his face and it stops him from having one of his tantrums. And the father is just absent-mindedly watching him and enjoying that, and just says, without really thinking, I'll be so sad when you go off to school. I like having you around. And Stephen just walks off. His whole face goes white and he just walks off. And he talks about how he doesn't understand the feeling that he's having, how his face feels all wobbly, and all he can do is just sit there under the stairs and just say to himself, Father likes having me around. And that's the first time I've managed to relay that story without crying. It's so sweet and so beautiful. The smell of gingerbread is so good. Okay, which side am I decorating? So that's going to be the base. These are going to be the sides. For the roofs, oh, I see the roof's supposed to be bigger. Crikey! So that's the premise of The Homemaker, and it was such a wonderful book to read, because while obviously at the time it was written, the idea of a family swapping roles like that was much more unheard of than it is now. The book in general encourages you to think outside the box and think outside the things that you know of. So there was this one line that I loved, this one moment, when one of the relatives of the family comes around to help, and she's talking to Lester, and he's telling her about the way they make it work and the way him and the children do the housework together. And she says, "Oh, I've never heard of such a thing as that." And he thinks to himself, my hands are sticky now, so I'm not going to find the exact quote, but something along the lines of, "People seem to think they've made a sufficient comment when they say that." And I loved that. I read it a few times because it's so true. We kind of seem to think that just because you've never heard of something before, that has any kind of inherent meaning. Why does that mean anything for whether or not it's a good solution or the right thing to do? I have not got very far with my icing. Wow. The icing does not pipe out in the way that I thought that it would. This is very challenging.
I'm good to cut.
Oh, that's way better!
Yeah!
Yes, that's smart. Ooh, yeah, boy. Oh, this looks terrible. This looks terrible. Who said being a homemaker was easy, huh? So that reminds me, there's another scene in the book which is so great where that same relative, I think it's actually the same scene, so that same relative is talking to the father and she sees that he's darning his own stockings and she's like, "Oh no, I can't have you darning your stockings. Give them to me, I'll do them for you." And he's like, "No, of course I can do them." And she's like, "It's too much, it's too sad." And he says, "Why, Matty? Do you think that housework is the lowest form of work that should only be done by people with no other option?" And then she gets very affronted and she sort of gets all blustery and she's like, "No, of course not, it's the noblest thing to do." And he's like, "Very well then," and keeps darning his stockings. He's just great. That was my second Persephone Press book that I've read. The first one I read was Little Boy Lost by Margarita Lasky. I read that one a few years ago actually, and I loved it. It was so moving. But let me know if you've read any other Persephone books, because they're such a great company. Oh my god, guys, this is fucking up. Being a homemaker is no joke. Is this something they like give to children? Can children do this? Because I can't. That's a door and a window. Do you like it? They have a doorknob on theirs? Jeezy craze. Okay. Oh boy. I'm trying to make this house. I feel like theirs is a lot better than mine. Okay, this is all I've done in the last 22 minutes of filming. Who said Christmas was fun? Christmas is stressful. This better be tasty gingerbread after all this. I love gingerbread. Do you guys like gingerbread? Cool, good chat. I'm glad we had this chat. The ending of the book. I'd be interested to hear people's thoughts because it's quite like extreme and it's very sad. I'd love to just know what people thought of that ending, if they thought that was the only inevitable way for that book to go or not. Hey, these waves are looking way better. Oh. Nope, spoke too soon. Broke my waves in half. Okay, I've decorated all my panels, if we can call it decorating. They just look like this now. Oh, I'm supposed to stick the sweets on? Those are just going to fall off though. This is stupid and hard. It sticks more to my finger than it sticks to the bloody icing. We're not aiming for any art prizes here. Ice the base and push the panels. Yeah, okay. No way. There is no way in hell. If this icing isn't strong enough to stick this tiny little sweet, how is it going to be strong enough to hold this up? That's just not science. Oh, that's staying for now. So proud of you, little buddy. Now I'm gonna do your friend. This must be how Eva Knapp feels at the beginning of the book, channeling all of her energy and frustration into something that is not ultimately satisfying. This has been an experiment in method reading. Is that a thing? Is method reading a thing that people do? My face has actually started sweating. That is a beautiful house. No! No! Can you hear all my sweets falling off? No! Stay with me, baby. Did you know that I spent £12 on this piece of shit? It's a house. No! 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 Where'd you go? Maybe the moral of the story is don't be a homemaker because you won't have a fun time. That wall is structurally unsound, and that is not my fault. All the sweets have come off. It's just like not very Hansel and Gretel up in this bitch, but it's fine. Excuse me, did I say you could fall over? Feeling very bad for Mrs. Housewife now. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. No, no, no. Even if I get all of this to stand upright, there's actually no place for the roof to attach to them because the roof panels are a totally different size. Did I use the wrong bits? Oh no, my walls have collapsed inwards. I'm back! This is beautiful. This is beautiful. We're having a great time. What if I just lean them? Oh. Because I'm the homemaker in this situation, I can decide that my home doesn't need walls. The roof stays up with no walls. That's magic. One more to go and then we have a house. Oh. I think the moral of the story, kids, is don't be a homemaker. That's not the moral of the story. The moral of the story is be whatever you want. Don't let society dictate your role for you. And don't let society dictate that you have to finish a gingerbread house just because you started it. Otherwise you'll be up till midnight. This is the extent of my house. Hey, if I hold it like that, it looks like I actually made a house. Let's eat my front door. Yep. It's not even good gingerbread. So read The Homemaker by Dorothy Canfield Fisher. I loved this book so much. Definitely going to be in my best books of the year. It's a lovely story, both as a story about a couple living in a particular time, and also just as an inspirational story about finding your own truth in life and not letting anyone define you or tell you who you can and cannot be. Or that any type of work is more important than any other, because it is not. Second moral of the story is don't try and build your own gingerbread house. They never work. So subscribe to this channel because I am posting new videos every day of Vlogmas, and give this video a thumbs up if you have ever tried and failed to make a gingerbread house. I need a nap now. See you next time!